The subject of this Minor Quibbles episode is basements.
Basements. Sweet. Can't wait.
Yeah, this is one that we've been talking about doing for quite a long time. It was one of the original non-movie subjects that we wanted to cover.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty excited about it. I have a lot to say. Basements have been a major part of my life, and there's plenty to quibble about and plenty to praise at the same time.
Yes, same. I think it was born out of the idea. I don't know what our very first non-media related quibble was, but I think it was fall or autumn.
Yes.
I think may have been our very first one. And it just tickled me quite a bit, the idea that you would have like minor quibbles about things like, a season. And so then I just dawned on me, well, there's tons of things that you could do that for, because anything has its pros and cons.
Right.
And basements, I mean, come on. There's a wealth of things we could talk about with basements.
Well, when I reached a certain age as a young man, I sort of graduated to the basement and in terms of where my bedroom was located. I remember this being a major part of my life. I initially had a bedroom that was across the hall from our parents' bedroom, and it was just it was a boy's bedroom. And I don't know how old I was, maybe 14, something like that, but it's time for you to move downstairs.
That was a boy's bedroom and you moved into a man's bedroom.
That's what I'm telling you. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, go on.
Well, with that move came the extra space. So I had room for like a desk. I don't know if I got a bigger bed at that point in time. We had a walk-in closet in that downstairs bedroom as well.
Sure.
Pretty big window looking out into the backyard. It was a great space for a teen boy to have to himself. You're a teenager. You're gonna do all sorts of things down there, like be surly by yourself. It's perfect.
Have moody lighting. Listen to parental advisory lyrics on your CD player.
Yes.
CD you just bought.
Yes.
Obviously this is our generation specific, but it all has the same energy,
Yes.
And having a basement bedroom has like total back of the bus energy, where it's like only certain people are allowed to do this, and it's like once you reach that certain status, it's like, no, you're not with us. You don't sit at the back of the bus. It's like, no, my room is in the basement. Like,
if you have a basement bedroom as a teenager, you're kind of like an upperclassman.
Totally. Yeah.
In the household.
Yeah. And it's like, you do whatever you want down there. Really, you put as many posters up as you want, of any variety. It's, the world is your oyster at that point.
It worked really well for my, burgeoning interest in politics and the intersection between that and music, because, not only was I, just in the basement and just kind of had the space to myself, but, I can blast my Rage Against the Machine. So that was like a huge benefit for me at that time.
Yep. And it also felt like a bit of a respite for me too, where it was like, if you want to escape the upstairs world where, things are going on, you're in the immediate view of the parental units.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, just escape down to the basement where
the basement.
It's a haven. All right, I'm just going to detour this conversation just really quickly, because something about the things on the wall, you just reminded me of. I remember there being a period of time in which the concept of having posters or things of certain interest on the wall was like big for you and I. And it was so big that I was so jealous of the things that you thought of to put on your wall, and like immediately copied you to, like whether it was like the liners from CDs or like a poster you actually bought, or whatever. And I'll get to the topics in a second, but I want to bring up a similar concept here to ask you if this is what you did to me. There's a video or a GIF of like a dog that has had his favorite toy stolen from him from another dog, and the dog doesn't want to give it up. And so the other dog just picks up another toy it doesn't care about and pretends to like love it for a second, just to get the other dog to drop his favorite toy so he can go back and pick up said toy. I bring that up because there was a point where you were very into aliens, not the movie, but just like outer space,
aliens, Roswell, New Mexico, aliens visited,
all of that.
Yes.
And you put those things on your wall. And I thought that was like so cool. And I was like, I'm going to do that. And I think you were like kind of upset that I was like copying you, like get your own thing.
Yeah.
And then strangely enough, I think you started putting up like coupons to like Steak and Shake or like fast food restaurants and stuff up on your
Wow.
wall.
Okay.
And then I was like, well, that's cool. I'm going to do that too.
Hmm.
And I started doing that. And I wonder if it's that sort of same thing where you're like, let's see what stupid thing Andy will do.
I don't have any conscious recollection of doing it for that purpose. Like this is the purpose that the dog evidently used it for.
Yeah.
I do vaguely remember though being annoyed that my thing, which was aliens, was sort of like co-opted by you, the younger brother.
Right.
But
Yeah,
I
of
don't
course.
remember the coupons thing. I can't verify that.
Well, it wasn't just coupons. It was just like ads for like, Steak and Shake, Burger
Was it
King.
ironic? Like was
I
my
think it was ironic. I think it's
sense of
when,
irony was growing at that point in my life, and I
what
needed
was
to
the
express
name?
it.
What was the name of that magazine you subscribed to?
Adbusters.
Adbusters. I think it was around that time where it's like you
Yeah.
were really into that.
Hmm.
Anyway, I recently thought about that and
Yeah.
this jogged my memory. Is like, I wonder if that was a total bait and switch of you just being like smarter than me, being like, I wonder if I can get my dumb little brother to like put up pictures of hamburgers on his wall. And
I don't think it would have been a reverse psychology thing. I'm almost positive that it would have been like, I'm starting to understand consumerism and materialism, and I want to, I want to reject it categorically. And so, I
Yeah.
subscribe to Adbusters and I start putting ads on my wall, ironically.
Yeah.
That sounds like something I would do.
Yeah. Big basement energy right there.
Yeah.
That's
Oh, full basement energy.
yeah.
As if the glow in the dark alien stickers weren't enough.
Yeah.
I graduated into, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
You went through so many different modes of being in that basement. It's
Right.
almost like the cocoon,
Hmm.
it's like you went down there a little larva and slowly blossomed into the monarch that you are.
Came out an angsty butterfly. Yeah.
Yeah. I associate our basement with probably the best times we had because we like practiced music down there.
Yeah.
The computer, which was connected to the internet, was down there.
Hmm.
We would watch movies. That we had a back door, so it's like if we wanted to have friends over and not disturb mom and dad, it's like they would come around the back and we could do
Yes.
whatever, play video games, whatever. It's just, I think the concept of the basement is just, if you live in a part of the world where they exist, or you're lucky enough to have one, I feel like it's just it must be the thing that parents wait for.
Mm.
It's like, we're saving this for the moment we cannot stand you anymore. And it's like,
Yeah.
you know what? Like you're out of our control mostly at this point.
Yeah.
Even though you're not out of the house, just go to the basement.
Yeah.
And just go get away from me, go to the basement.
Do your teenager stuff down there.
Yes,
Out of
exactly.
sight, out of mind.
Yeah.
We still control you kind of, but we just
Yeah.
don't want to be a part of whatever the hell you're doing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Go do it. Yeah.
Well, you brought up something that is very interesting to me, which is kind of what I feel is almost a classic basement kind of architecture. Like you mentioned the fact that, well, so I think for like maybe the average nuclear family in America that has a basement, you generally have three zones of that basement. There's the bedroom, which is for the angsty teenager who's like old enough to live down there now. There's like your playroom, rumpus room, whatever you want to call it, area. Maybe it has a TV, some couches, and that's for roughhousing, whatever. And then there's always like a back room, which is like under construction. And that's where like the water heater is. And there's like tools that the dad has. And, there's just a bunch of junk back there. So those are like they're like the three biomes of the basement in America.
Yeah, it was storage, basically unfinished, like the
Unfinished.
basement that is unfinished. It's
You know,
always,
a whiff of danger from that room, I would say.
well, a
There
whiff of
might be
danger.
spiders in there.
Yeah, exactly. It's always wet in there for some reason.
Yeah, there's a
It's
dampness.
never totally dry. Let's
Yeah.
just put it that way. And what you bring up there is like the element of danger or concern that you have. Maybe is my first minor quibble about basements, is that like not even just that unfinished area that is like not well lit, it's concrete, it's dark, it's dank, all these different things. Is basements are scary when you're a little kid. Like they just are. They have no reason to be, really, other than they aren't like cozy carpeted sofas, warm glow, mom and dad are there, whatever.
Yeah.
And I remember distinctly every single night, but like this is before you moved down there, every single night it was the lights in the basement have to go off.
Yes.
like whatever on there. And I think that at some point in our adolescence, we were the ones who were tasked with that, because we all kind of went to bed around the same time, whether or not mom and dad went to sleep. Is like, all right, 8 o'clock, 8:30, time to go to bed.
It's bedtime. Yeah.
And oh, go down there, turn off the lights.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes dad would leave a light on in that back room, and you gotta, turn it off. And I distinctly remember it being of the age where it was like, where the immediacy of darkness meant like instant danger.
Yeah.
Like, now that's dark down here, like something could totally get me, and I would run up the stairs with like chills down my spine. Like, I got to get upstairs as fast as possible.
Yeah, I can remember doing that, being not afraid of the dark per se, but the lights are out. It's completely dark. You're in this area. You're away from your parents. You have to run up the steps.
Right. Yeah. Because now you don't know what's down there.
Yeah.
Could be anything.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's my first, like, that's basements get a -1 for that.
It's kind of like this just popped in my mind, but you know how I'm not sure what age in like human development this happens, but there's a point in time where like the human brain develops the concept of like object permanence, right? Like you move the ball behind the thing and like it comes back. It's like, oh, ball has just manifested itself, versus no, the ball still exists when it's not like directly perceivable. And I kind of feel like the lights going off in the same space you were just in with the lights being on is like a similar thing where it feels like it's become a completely different and dangerous place when the lights go off in the basement.
It's an extension of that. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. It's not entirely that though, because basements are kind of creepy when you're a kid anyway, if they're, and I don't know if it's a total chicken or the egg thing. I almost feel like, at least for our generation, maybe. I guess you just have to ask somebody, who is like, ask somebody from the boomer generation, like, were you scared of your basement growing up? And they're like, no, it's like, there's no reason to be scared. It's like, I don't know how many people are actually scared of clowns, or if they just think it's funny to say that they are, or if the movie It caused that fear. It's pop culture, like clowns are scary. Oh my God. Like, remember that movie? I saw it when I was 4 and I shouldn't have. There's a moment in Home Alone where Kevin goes down into the basement and the furnace like opens up and it's scary. And it's like, I wonder if I saw that and it made me like, oh man, I should be scared of the basement, because Kevin McAllister is scared of the basement. It's
hard to trace sort of the causality of that, but I'm going to say that I suspect that it's embedded in us. It's not just learned, because that concept of Kevin is afraid of the furnace, he's afraid of the basement, had to come from somewhere initially.
Sure. Yeah.
And I just think I don't know, I think it's got to go, I think it goes really deep. I think it goes into the so-called lizard brain. It's like dark, bad things come out in the dark. That's when bugs and creepy crawlies come out. That's when bad people do bad things, and that association just goes to such a core level.
Yeah, it's deep. Yeah, you're right. It's probably just deep embedded, but I don't know that I know exactly what it is. I'm gonna posit that we should pause just really quick, because she's doing a quick thing and she may bleed through. So
okay, yeah,
let's pause for a second. I mean to gather some more thoughts. All right, so I think this is maybe not a quibble about basements per se, but it's just I guess the thing that annoys me is that I don't have one. I can't really blame basements for that. I have to blame my own circumstance for that. But I guess I could blame basements a little bit, because they're not easy to have. It's like, either you relegate that portion of your house that's above ground to being the basement, or you have to like dig out the land underneath it in which to build a foundation in which that portion of the house will be a basement. So, there's like houses in Florida, like most places in Florida don't have basements because it's sea level. New York City, you don't live in a place where you have access to the basement usually. And if you do, it's like a tiny little locker and you're sharing it with 150.
You have a cellar, maybe it would be better.
Maybe. So, come on, basements, like, why you got to be so difficult?
Yeah. And I was thinking, there's a limit. There's much more of a limit on, you can add floors easier than you can add basements. There's like the concept of like sub basements, which, let's not even open that can of worms.
Don't even get me started on sub basements. Yeah,
Yeah. If your basement is good, then I guess every sub basement is like a multiplier on how good it is. But
I guess. Yeah.
if your basement's a bad place, then every sub basement's going to get a lot worse. That's something I learned from like
I,
video games and
absolutely.
yeah,
Yeah. I mean, you almost anytime you end up there, you
yeah,
don't want to be there. You try to get
no,
out as
no,
quickly as possible. Although you might find something great, which I think is kind of typical of basements.
yeah,
It's like you might find something useful down there
yeah,
when you're not even trying to find it. Really, it's like it might just
right.
appear to you.
At that point, we're talking more about dungeons almost than which dungeons are maybe a class of basement kind of, but
Yeah, well, it's like it might be like the original basement, really.
dungeons, yeah, underground. I guess a dungeon doesn't have to be underground by definition, but typically they are, aren't they? There's a
I
dungeon
definitely
under the
associate.
castle.
Yeah, I definitely associate the word. If you
Hmm.
say dungeon, I
Yeah,
never think of anything above ground.
yeah. Well, I'm trying to think like when I'm calling back to literature, cases where people in medieval times have been imprisoned. You know, I guess yeah, you're in the prison, but then if you've done something really bad, you get thrown in the dungeon, and that's
Right.
down deep.
Down. It's always in
Yeah,
the ground. Yeah.
yeah. Okay,
In the
okay.
light.
Maybe it is underground by definition.
Yeah.
Something to look
Um,
up.
yeah. I mean, I guess it makes me wonder why it's called Dungeness Crab. I
I
don't know.
do now wonder that as well.
Yeah. Well, one thing I think we could probably say with confidence
Yeah.
is that basements, though below, are superior to attics.
Ooh, that's tough because I don't
This
have
is
enough experience with attics to be able to really tell you that that is the case. I've been in some unfinished attics, like the types that are pretty common in suburbia, but I haven't spent much time in like a classic attic, the sort of which you would see in a movie, where it's
right.
like nicely furnished and there's sort of maybe some cute compartments that contain magical items or whatever.
Yeah. I mean, already just by the fact that you don't have as much experience with them, I think would give points to the idea that basements, one, they're just more accessible, and that
Yeah,
just to me it like infers the idea that attics maybe they're just a little smug,
yeah. Attics are smug. Yeah.
a
Okay.
little smug, aren't they? Like
Yeah.
to have like a finished attic
Mm.
that's like not just meant for the concept of like insulation to
Yeah.
the rest of the home, it's like you might be throwing up some dusty old boxes up there
Yeah.
or something, but like a finished
Yeah.
attic where you would regularly like climb the doorway stairs or whatever to get up to
Yeah.
sleep. No, that's smug.
It's too extra.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
way extra. And it's
Okay.
also they're hot. I've never like even
Right.
in the wintertime, I've never been in an attic where I wasn't like dying from,
Mm.
how muggy and hot and just like unpleasant it was.
Yeah. Okay. So I think I buy it. I think so. We're agreed that basements are superior to attics.
I
Yeah.
think so. I
Yeah.
mean, we can certainly open that up to, our five people viewing this and say, like, what do you think? Like, do
Yeah.
you prefer attics or do you prefer basements?
Yeah. Leave a comment. What do you think about attics versus basements?
Ask your whole family, your entire friend network. Post a poll on Facebook for us, really, because
Yeah.
I'm not going to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, now that I think about it, I think I might actively dislike attics. It's not even like I think basements are better. It's just I don't know. I have never really found that much value to the attic.
Yeah. Oh, well, same. It
Yeah.
just unavailable. And what little time I've spent, yeah, it tends to be it's unfinished insulation. Maybe there's old boxes.
Right.
And attics are associated with sort of these magical events. I feel like you go into the attic and there's an old music box that has a keyhole, but you have no key to it. And the next thing you know, you're
Some sort of large chest that it has a
yes.
map in it.
Yes.
There's a mirror or something or a compass,
Yes.
up there.
Yeah. Maybe a puzzle
But
box of some kind.
yeah, exactly. But you can't stand up. That's another thing is that
Yeah.
like in an attic, you're always hunched over because if I guess like, is that a criteria for an attic?
Yeah.
Because it's like if you can stand up fully throughout the entirety of that room, is that not just the next level
I
of
think
the
it's
house?
just the next level at that point. I think an attic has to be like that triangular partition of a house that has like a A-frame going on the top.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hmm.
I'm all in on this.
Okay. I think I buy it. I think I'm
Yeah.
with you. Well, it does make me wonder like what the different I was kind of reviewing the types of experiences that I've had in basements like over my life. Like, I can remember going to friends' houses and they would have, basements were the venue of most activities. Anytime, I don't know if this is true for girls too, but as young boys, I think the basement is where you go if you're having a sleepover with some friends. I can remember going to a friend's house and, playing Command and Conquer all night in the basement because he had a LAN set up and and that was pretty awesome. And,
Mhm.
other friends, it was, during our pro wrestling days, that's where you go to the basement, you set out the mats and you do a pro wrestling match down there.
Yeah. Build a
Rough
fort.
housing, you build forts in the basement.
Yeah.
So I do wonder though, I guess I wonder on a gender basis if there's a difference in the sort of just like relationship that one has with a basement, like do the girls and their girlfriends also do similar kinds of things in the basement or view them in the same way?
Yeah, I mean, I would have to assume the answer is yes. I mean,
Mhm.
I think the activities have to vary, and I think the question really is, regardless of the activity or the style of activity, is that where the sleeping happens?
Mm,
Because I think regardless, the sleeping for a boys' sleepover will end up in the basement no matter what.
yeah.
It's like you don't know, okay, we're done. It's like we're all really tired. It's time to go upstairs to the kid's bedroom
No,
where it's nicer. It's like even the kid who lives there is like staying down
oh yeah.
in
Yeah.
a sleeping bag
Yeah.
or something, not going to their room where the bed is.
Yeah.
So
You're not going to abandon your bros,
well, it's
Yeah.
it's both. Well, yeah, I guess yeah, you're not going to abandon your bros. You're
Yeah,
right. Yeah.
you're in the basement with them. Yeah.
Yeah. Even though all that comfiness is just a stairwell away.
Yeah, true.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. That's a good question. I'll have to ask. There's only a select group of people that you can ask that question to, because it's like
Mm.
the question necessitates that you even had a basement
Yes.
growing up. So it's like, I'm gonna guess that if you're living here in New York City, it's like if you're having a sleepover, you're almost forced into sleeping in whatever room, or like activities happen there. It's like maybe sleepovers don't happen
Yeah.
here. Like,
Hmm. That's a good question. I have no idea. I've
yeah,
never even thought to ask that.
yeah,
I assume they would have to.
yeah.
I there are surely slumber parties. I
You would think, but it's like, I
same
guess,
same difference, I guess, but there's a slight when I think sleepover,
yeah,
especially when I think boys, basically, I imagine that it just somehow involves this notion of like there's like sort of rough housing and it's loud and it's a little bit brash and the boys are downstairs. Let them do their thing and be
yeah.
boys down there.
The boys will be boys.
Yeah, and I associate a slumber party as a little bit of a more refined type of event where there are like I don't know, the
Yeah,
conversation is being had and treats are being distributed and it's
yeah, yeah. I guess I've never asked if if so and so can come over for a slumber party.
yeah.
Yeah. Um, yeah, it's kind of like the concept. I don't know, maybe there's just something over the hill I can't see when it
Hmm.
comes to the concept of that here in a place like New York where it's apartment buildings, it's not houses. Like kids, like there are playgrounds on roofs of
Yes.
buildings here.
Yeah.
And it was like when I heard that, I was like, that blows my mind
Hmm.
that that's a thing. Of course there are, because where else are kids going to go have recess? Like they
Yeah.
can't just go on Fifth Avenue over here. Like they,
Yeah.
gotta go somewhere. It's
Yep.
like unless there's a giant gym that they go into, which maybe some of them have. Of course, yeah. Put the
Yeah.
playground on the roof.
On the roof. Yeah. Makes sense.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
So maybe there's something where it's like, yeah, when you have a slumber party, we just like access that trap door, and that's where you go.
Well,
Uh,
it is funny how in New York City, I there's a kind of intrigue to these basements that you do see on some buildings because sometimes
sure.
you're walking down the street at night and there's clearly a lower level where there's windows at the ground level that your feet are like at the level of like a foot below the ceiling of the basement of the building. And
Yeah.
often like especially at night you're walking by and the lights are on and you'll see things in the basement. You'll see like tables and chairs or you'll see like and I just my curiosity just sort of flares up. I just want to know like what occurs in this room because it's just a
Right.
mystery. Like who sits at that table? Why is that down there? How often do they go down there?
Yeah.
These are in basements of like maybe school buildings or apartment buildings or all varied kind of buildings. But yeah,
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think really what you're saying circuitously is that like basements are full of mysteries.
they are. Thank you.
Maybe it's like maybe
Yeah,
that's one of the things we love about them.
yeah. mysteries, possibly hidden dangers.
Yes.
You know, as we talked about, you know, personal development, you know.
Growth. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a magical world that is accessible by some,
Yeah.
and you know, I guess for those who don't experience the basement life, um, I just I don't really have much that I can offer up empathetically speaking about that. It's like I kind of bummed out, you know. It's like
Yeah.
it's I wish everyone would be able to have that experience at least once, you know.
Well, it's kind of, so we were coming onto the verdict here, and it's kind of like what you're saying is like basements are recommended for all the reasons that we just
100%.
listed.
Yeah.
And you feel a bit sorry for people who didn't have that experience, you know.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like I feel sorry for them in that, in like the condescending way. It's like it's just like
You just wish that they had had that experience because it
it's
was good.
like basement Santa Claus. That's what I wish I could be. It's like give all the people in the world a basement. You know, it's
Yeah.
like that's what I wish for the world, because you can store your things down there.
Yeah.
You can do your moodiest poetry down there.
Yep.
You can rock out your hardest music
Yep.
down there. You can have your friends over down
Model
there.
train set down there.
Oh, man, possibilities are endless.
Yep.
Basements, thumbs up.